Chris has just come back from watching Thor: Love and Thunder, and there've been a lot of controversial comments and commentary around the
Have
movie.
there? I haven't. I don't go on the internet anymore.
It's you know, in a way that's kind of that's reasonable. That's important because
Yeah.
otherwise
Connor,
your opinion will be warped rather than formulating your own idea of what the movie was like
to
and what it should have been.
yeah, so I
To
don't go on the internet. Connor brings me all my YouTube entertainment on a USB. I just plug it into my computer and watch.
But what did you think of the movie?
I'm a Marvel fanboy through and through, and I really enjoyed the movie. And I don't know if when I go into a movie, I just turn my critical self off, and I just go into a movie, but I just enjoyed it, start to finish, and there were so many great moments. And I think another thing that I do is I focus on great moments, and there were a lot of great moments. Um,
I think that's what Marvel does really well is that they take something from the comics and they translate it into the film, but they give it room to breathe. Like obviously, you know, the Captain America get wields Mjolnir for the first time, and
right.
you know they take that moment and they're like, yeah, everyone's gonna love this. Let's give it the
Give it to them.
the respect that it deserves. You know.
And then that's actually an interesting point because you're saying that like, oh yeah, things come over from the comics. Um, this movie felt like maybe too many things came over from the comics.
Oh
Um,
wow, that's interesting.
or maybe yeah.
May-
If I
may-
had to if I had to list three big comic book thingies that came from this, so there was obviously the Jane Foster as uh as Thor story.
yeah.
There was Gore the God Butcher,
Yeah.
and then sort of shoehorned in was was a setup for like the Greek gods and other gods existing in the universe. Something someone said to me maybe would have made this better was if it actually had been a series, a Thor series.
Authorities, yeah. I mean, what's that? The comics and sorry, more in line with novels. That's the classic problem that it always runs into. Is there's so much content that you need to compress into one
Mm,
hour and a half movie, sometimes 2 hour movie,
I
and
think
it
it's
just
2 hours.
become it just becomes too saturated and kind of digresses and doesn't aid the story,
There's not a
but rather confuses the viewer and distracts them.
there's not always enough time to explore everything.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
So what you're saying is that a lot of interesting concepts, but not enough time to explore those concepts.
hmm, um so like and sorry for anyone that hasn't seen it, but I assume you're listening to this if you have seen it. But we don't actually see Gore the God butcher any gods.
Uh,
That huge fallen monster from the trailers that
done
happens
off screen. Yeah.
off screen, and then Thor shows up, and it's already dead. Um, the the only god that gets butchered, is when Thor kills Zeus, or seemingly kills him. So yeah, that was a bit. It would have been more interesting, uh, as to see maybe with the Guardians as well, because the Guardians leave Thor because they say, "Oh, we need to split up. Um, we need to go, like, there's a lot of trouble happening. There's like 3,000 distress calls, so we need to split up." So it might have been more interesting to see Thor and the Guardians.
Okay. That when we meet
Hmm.
Gore, right, and we see him fight, would you say that it's you can see Gore killing all these gods? Do you think it's realistic? Is it believable that he's that powerful Did you get that sense when we met him for the first time?
He has a very good setup. So I'll just
Okay.
talk you through the opening sequence. So he's in the desert. He's carrying his daughter, and there's no water. There's nothing. And she's about to die, and then she dies. And he wakes up from basically passing out from dehydration, and there's this oasis, and he goes over to this oasis, and in the oasis is the god of life, sun god or whatever, and he's a total asshole. And
Yeah. No,
the
no, I
and
expected
Gore,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Angor is like all of your followers are dead. This whole planet is a desert. You know, we worshipped you. You didn't help us, but now you're here. This is so great. And he's he's being an asshole. Gore's trying to Gore like falls into like a pond and to like enjoy water that he hasn't seen in so long, and he's like chewing on like this fruit, and the god's like, hey, that's my offering. Like, get your hands off it or whatever. And the god has basically just killed someone that has the sword that can kill gods, the Necro sword, and
Ah, right.
he's holding Gore by the throat, and he says, now, your planet dies with you or whatever. And the sword like comes out of the shadow into his hand, and he stabs it straight into the god. And he decides that his purpose is that gods are just assholes. I'm gonna just go and kill the gods. And that's his origin story, which is good. And maybe I'm shorthanding it a bit, but it's a good setup for a
Yeah,
character.
yeah. I think you might have butchered it a little bit. But yeah, no, that's. I mean, it makes sense. Like I was, you need a reason for why Gore hates the god so much. That's a pretty good bloody reason. Like all his people died, his daughter died, probably his wife or partner or whatever.
Yeah, or family or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Jeez,
but
like that's visceral and really. I feel like they.
it's dark.
Yeah, yeah. And so, now that you mentioned Doc, what about the balance between the silliness of the movie and the dark? Like with Thor Ragnarok, the clear problem with that was all the exciting stuff was happening on that planet,
Mm.
while Hela was killing all the Asgardians and sending everyone into exile and all that stuff. Like that was fine, but you just wanted to see what Thor was doing, what was
Oh,
happening. Like every time it switched over to
Hella.
Asgard, it was kind of like well, I don't know. I want to see what Thor's doing, what Hulk's doing. I want them to see
I
more
uh,
more stuff, like more fights in the arena or something.
I actively have to remind myself that Hela was in that movie and was a character.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
When I think Thor Ragnarok, when my first thought of, oh, who's the bad guy of Thor Ragnarok? I went, oh, it's the Grandmaster, Jeff Goldblum. That's who I thought was the bad guy. I'd completely forgotten about all the like Hela stuff,
I mean,
and I don't
you're
know.
not wrong. It's
Yeah.
just that he overshadowed her because he was just a much more interesting character. Something that because Hela was just kind of like this, mustache twirling villain. I
Mm.
don't remember what her motivation was. Oh wait, she was like locked
She
up in
wanted to
another
rule
dimension.
Asgard.
Yeah, something like that.
But she,
Whatever it wasn't as engaging as the Grandmaster who just wants to rule over his planet and entertain his people. And
mm,
he loved the power, and he was just so disconnected from all the really bad shit going on below him. He found
right.
it so easy to just kill someone in a very
But
nonchalant
people,
way.
I mean, people love Thor Ragnarok, and it's considered the best Thor movie. So I think when they did this, there was definitely a lot of pressure to be like, hey, do Thor Ragnarok again. Be bright, be colorful, be silly.
You're
Do that
right.
again. And we want Thor Ragnarok. The silly parts of Thor Ragnarok will work. Just make everything silly, and that's where it went a little side shape because we set up this very serious, very well motivated villain, and then we're like, make him a little silly. So I'll tell you about one of the scenes that sort of bothered me. So obviously Gore has lost his daughter, and then he comes to Asgard, New Asgard, the one on Earth,
Right. Right.
and he steals all the children.
Oh wow.
He steals all the Asgardian children, including Heimdall's son, which has never been an established thing. I don't think when Heimdall died in
No,
Ragnarok,
no.
he said,
There's nothing.
"Look after my son." So that was an interesting little bit. But anyway, so Gore kidnaps all these children, and he's got them in a big, scary nightmare cage, uh, locked away. And Thor can basically like project himself through Heimdall's son's eyes to check on them and talk to them. And at one point, all the kids are in this cage, and they're all scared, and they're telling stories about how brave Thor was. And then from like the shadows, like Gore is there watching, and this could have been really scary. But then Gore does this thing. So he's telling the story about how Thor chopped off Thanos' head, and the kids are all like, "Oh wow!" And then Gore comes in and he takes out this little like shadow monster octopus, and he says, "This is Ollie the octopus." And then he's like, "Oh, hello everybody." You know, he's doing like the thing you would do with a kid. And then he like snaps the head off the octopus, and they're all like, ah, like screaming. And he's like, "Oh, you liked it a second ago." And I'm like, "Dude, you're like this terrifying nightmare creature." I get maybe there's a little bit of like buried parent in there,
Yeah, I
but
mean, you're describing the scene to me, and it would be perfect to kind of have narrative around Gord. Like
mm,
kidnapped all these kids, and maybe he recognizes Heimdall's son as a replacement for his daughter, and like he
there
was
was
a
a
parent. So
wasn't
I don't know. Like what you're describing isn't apparent to me.
so he's being corrupted by the Necro Sword.
Oh, okay. That helps a little bit.
So he
Okay.
his
Yeah.
mind being warped, and Christian Bale I think does a phenomenal job
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah, of
In this,
course.
I think
American
that
Psycho.
he's a brilliant actor, and I think he really portrayed the character well. It felt like a scene where he could have come out and been really terrifying. I don't know, maybe he took one of the children away and separated them from the rest of the children to like scare them, to like give them the sense of fear, like, oh, like what are they doing with that other child? Oh, one of the kids reminded of his daughter. It's interesting you said that. So maybe if he'd taken her and like tried to talk to her or something, and then we could have seen like,
Another side to him.
and then there's this scene where so he's using Stormbreaker. Gore is using Stormbreaker
Oh
to
wow.
go and see Eternity, this higher being, and all the kids are there, and Thor's there, and he has to stop Stormbreaker from opening this gate. Because if you go to Eternity, you can make a wish, and the idea is that Gore is going to just wish for the death of all gods. But anyway, Thor needs to get to Gore to fight him. But of course, Gore has these shadow monsters that he can summon. So how is Thor going to? He's there on his own. How is he going to take out the shadow monsters and go and battle Gore? He's going to give a portion of his power temporarily to all of the kids so that they can fight the shadow monsters. So there's these,
Huh.
and it's an amazing sequence. It's fun, but it's completely ridiculous for a final fight scene.
Yeah.
It's just this one little girl has like a soft toy bunny, and like her soft toy bunny is like charged with like shooting lightning, and like there's this kid with like their hair sticking up, and it it's wild. It's completely,
It sounds like they did Shazam, but just
but it doesn't fit.
yeah, yeah,
Why would Thor, even with the powers of Thor is saying to these innocent children with no fighting training, I'll add,
yeah.
um, go and fight, go and fight these nightmare creatures that do want to kill you.
I, I must say, like, I don't hate the idea. Just because it's
It's
different,
fun.
you know,
It's
it's
fun, and
different,
like
it's fun, it's you know, you don't have to, you just don't think about it about it for more than 5 seconds, otherwise it just starts to
exactly,
fall apart. But you know, just it is fun.
and like I said at the beginning, you go into a Marvel movie, and you shouldn't do this. You should be critical, and you should be judgmental. But you go into a Marvel movie, and you want some superhero fun, some antics, some crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, and a bunch of lightning charged children. That's amazing. That's an amazing thing. It's
Yeah.
not logical, but it's amazing. And maybe Thor, being the way that he is now, maybe he did just think, oh, these kids could probably fight. Like they're Asgardian, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so what about future stuff? So what were the last the end
The
credit
post credits.
scenes, post
Yeah.
credit scenes? Yeah.
Okay. So this was one of my favorite setups in the whole movie. Okay. So we're on Olympus City or something, which is the city of the gods, where there's gods from like all types of religion there,
With
and
now Zeus dead.
and fiction and stuff. Yeah, but this is before that, right?
Oh.
Zeus, Russell Crowe Zeus, just amazing, just a gift. I don't know where the hell he got his accent from, but otherwise, just a complete and utter gift. He says something, and we all, you know, Zeus's son is Hercules, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And we know that
Oh
Hercules
my gosh, do we see
is
Hercules?
the get this. This this fat guy in a toga in the audience goes, "You tell him, Dad." Right? Okay.
No.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, well, they didn't call him Hercules, so maybe this is like another son of Zeus, and mm, like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. But like, why would they bring attention to that, right? Like, why would they bring attention to the son of Zeus if he wasn't like gonna be awesome? Mid-credit scene, Zeus is still alive, and he's like,
Oh,
we're gonna go teach Thor a lesson. Are you ready, son? Boom. He's all swole. He's in the comic book costume. He's like, I'm gonna go and beat up Thor. And it's so cool, dude. He's all Hercules out. It's so cool.
interesting. It's funny. So that's the second character in the movie that goes from being overweight to just getting swole. What is the what's the obsession with body transformations in this film, dude? Like, I mean, I'm not hating it, you know.
Yeah.
If
Zeus was cool AF, and he didn't go through any body transformation.
okay,
We can talk about another time how I think they'll bring in Hercules. And that was the mid credit.
right.
Um, I was the last one in the cinema with my family, waiting for the post credit, which I won't spoil for you because it was brilliant and
Oh no. Okay,
definitely,
okay.
definitely something you have to see for yourself. It wasn't it wasn't a setup, but it was a very nice thing to include. I felt.
Right,
Uh,
right. So and then the Necro Sword, whatever happens to it?
oh, dude, it gets destroyed in the most
Seriously, wow.
epic, epic way possible.
Okay, don't
Uh,
tell me, don't tell me.
not
I would.
telling you,
Okay,
not telling
okay.
you.
But I'm excited. I'm excited. But I'm excited, man.
Very cool,
I
very
must
cool.
say you've convinced me. I might actually go and watch it this weekend. So, awesome.
As you should, as you should.
So, guys, thanks so much. If you've made it at the till the end of the video, I congratulate you, and we hope to bring some more content soon.
All right, why not like and subscribe, guys?
See ya.
See you next time.